So we're starting a new year, and it's this sort of time where you sit there and either you're super excited because you had a bad year, or you want to wipe all that stuff away and you want to concentrate on the new year because it's a big empty book. We've got 12 months ahead of us. We can do what we want. It's our journey, and we're super excited. But for most of us, that only lasts by the end of January, it fizzles out. I think only 8% of people that set a New Year's resolution actually get that completed in 12 months. We just literally just fizzle out. And the reason for that is because we don't know what actionable steps we need to get done. It's very easy to say things like, hey, I'm going to lose 10 pounds. But it's actually breaking that down into a habit of going to the gym or eating less and doing that for a long period of time until it becomes the norm. So as a salon owner, it's nice to sit here and go, well, I've got a great plan. I've got something I want to do for 2025. What is it that I can actually do and achieve? And you come up with these great numbers. Well, reality is most of you guys aren't going to do it. So for myself, we've just passed this year and I've sat down and spent 2 days planning my whole year out. You may be doing that as well. I'm not too sure. You may be really giddy thinking about how good this year is going to be. There's a lot of people out there in doom and gloom. Well, these are the people that aren't planning. So planning out for your new year is one step, just one step of many. Then you really have to figure out what are the actionable steps to make that happen. And I have a unique way that works really well for me. I want to share with you, first of all, the insights, what I see when people decide that they want a new fantastic year or they want growth. Well, step one is it has to mean something. So it's very easy to say, I want to do 500,000 in my salon. It doesn't mean much to you. It's still wishy-washy. So we want to break that down to what does that actually mean? Do you want a new house? Do you want to save for a mortgage? Do you want a new car? And what is it that your desire to hit that number? Maybe you want to move up to a bigger house or put your kids through private school. There has to be a really big reason why you need to hit 500,000, because if you hit 500,000, you can pay yourself 100,000, and 100,000 is what you need to live the lifestyle that you really would love. So let's sit down and think about, you know, what it is that you want out of life because your salon can give you that. Now, before I move forward, some of you guys might be thinking, hey, I just need to survive. Like, I'm just not making enough money. I'm just not even paying myself any money, or I'm paying myself very little. Well, let's start with let's pay yourself 50,000 this time next year, or maybe 100,000, and that will give you a better life. So let's use that as your excitement to move forward in the coming year. So let's just pluck a number out of the air and see if it will work. Well, it could do. I like to break it down into facts. So what I like to do around now is look back on the previous year. So step one is like, how did last year really work for me? I know what I did, not a lot, just felt like a cork bobbing along in the ocean. And we just literally got to where we got to. And the year ended and we went, "Pooh, that was a tough year. That was a great year. That was an average year," whatever your year was. So what I want to teach you today is how to plan out to have the perfect year. And I'd like just to share my screen and doodle along and come and join me. Press pause if you want to and go and grab a coffee. So if you don't know where you're going, you're definitely going to end up somewhere, right? That's a fact. But the reality is it where you want to be? And businesses that grow, 30% faster have a plan. And if you don't have a plan, you're usually going to be stuck, overwhelmed, frustrated, maybe lost, don't know what to do. So you end up doing nothing. And I want to talk to you today about my salon growth. So when I first started my salon journey, there was just there was just me. And I remember I went in every single day and I was building the chairs because I couldn't afford the chairs. And I would do a couple of clients. And then when I got busy, I took someone else on. And when they got busy, I took someone else on. And it was just, I grew my business really fast. So it grew really quite quick. I literally went like that to a really good amount. And I was flying high and everything was fantastic. And I just thought, I'm going to do great hair and I'm going to be busy. And then something happened. It was like my bills grew bigger than my takings. I don't know why. My lifestyle sort of, I got a better mortgage and better cars and better clothes. And I went out in better restaurants because I'm a businessman now and I've got a busy salon. And I realized then I wasn't actually earning enough. I was in more debt and probably worse off than I was when I first started my business back here. You might be able to relate to this. So, then the staff had me over the barrel because I was scared to discipline the staff members because the staff members would leave. So, like, takings flatlined for such a long time, and over the next 5 years, takings remained the same, but bills went up, and I really struggled to grow my business. I just thought I'll just advertise a bit more. I'll stick an A board out. I'll do some more marketing, but nothing ever seemed to grow. And the reality is, the reason it didn't grow was because I didn't have focus. And I didn't know what to work on. I didn't know what was working. I didn't know what wasn't working. So then I decided to sell my salon and open a whole new one and start afresh. And with that one, we had a goal. We set a goal, and my goal started with how much I wanted to pay myself. Yep. And at the time, I think it was around 3,000 or something like that. I think it was a week. And that's what I wanted because that's the lifestyle I needed. And that meant that I had to earn in takings a number. So my goal was to hit this number. So I knew this number. So my goal was a number, a pound or dollar number. So that was my first thing that I did. And I'm going to choose for round figures. Let's set this at 500,000. That's what my salon needs to take. Now, I knew if that was the case, it had to come down to a number. You can't just have that willy-nilly. So once I had got that, I realized that I probably needed to do, let's say, 5,000 people over the year, spending 100 average bill. Now, once I broke that down, give or take figures, it's about 100 people a week was how many people I needed in my salon. And I realized, well, I probably can't do 100 a week. So that meant that I probably needed some employees. So I thought, okay, well, you know that you could do 30 and you could do 30 and you could do 30 and I could do an apprentice who could do 10. And yep, there we go. That gives us our 100 a week. So that I knew by taking this big number here and breaking it down to how we can do that, then all I needed to do is like, what did Richard need to do to make sure that we got 100 people a week? So we worked on training with the team to make sure that that average bill would be high enough. We worked on marketing. We worked on the client journey to make sure that the rebooks and the retail was up. We made sure the client experience was good so people would return. And I had an action plan. So I knew that if I did this, if I spent my weeks working on the client journey, on experience, on marketing, looking at my numbers, because we might call these KPIs, depending how you would call them. So I had my important numbers, and I knew instantly that if I did this here, I knew that I would be aiming for this, and I would then hit this. So right now, that is where you should be looking back. So you should be looking back last year, find out what you did well. What was your big number? We'll call that X. And then that was obviously broken down into, staff members, of course, and services. And now you have a line to draw of where you are. Now, when you want to move forward, your question is, what did you do last year? And what didn't you do? And we've got a big long list that we work with clients. So we go through this in depth with lots of coaching. And we have all the templates to ask them right questions and to look at their numbers and collate them and come up with a plan of action. Because that gives you clarity so you don't get stuck and overwhelmed and frustrated and lost and not knowing what to do, which is really the killer of all salon growth. So we start here. Wherever you are, you could be 1 year, 2 year, 10 years in business. And then we want to add a growth. Now, I'm a firm believer when you come and work with us for the very first time, we add a 30% increase on your business because we believe that we could probably do that. How we get 30% is really simple. Step one, we get you 10% more clients. And I think, looking at your Google My Business, your website, and your marketing, we can do that. Step two, we get you a 10% increase in getting your clients to return. So we've set up strategies, work with your client journey to get rebooks up and to get your clients to return a little bit sooner. And I think we can do that by 10%. And step three, we really dive into your client experience and we make sure that your rebooks and your retail and your average bill is increased by 10%. And that's very easy to do if you've not worked this before, because you've probably done none of that. So that means a 30% increase is great. So for example, if you're sitting around 100,000 in your business right now, a 30% increase is 130,000. If your business is doing 200,000, you'll be looking at 160,000, which is fantastic. Let's do 260,000. If you're looking at 300,000, you'll be ending up doing yourself a 400,000. Now, that is serious growth. That's probably where a lot of your profit is missing. Now, there's lots of key indicators that we work with your stock spend, with your wage percentage, with other bills that are due out, making sure that your numbers are all correct. But today we're just talking about planning. So if you don't know anything about planning or if you've never planned, there is so much growth in your business right now. Most people this year are being a bit scared with what's happening, with what's about to come, but not for our coaching clients, because we know that if we set a target and we can help them and hold their hand and give them the tools, there's a good chance they can hit that really nice amount where most people are going to be sitting there not knowing what to do. So what we need is an action plan to hit these big numbers. And of course, once we know that there's only three things to work on to increase takings, it's a lot simpler than you think. So first of all, you need to, like we said back here, is ask yourself some important questions. So first one, of course, is like, how well are you doing? And only you can answer that question. Do you think you were good enough? Do you think you wasn't good enough? The next one after that is like, ask yourself some deep questions. Maybe about your marketing, maybe about how you treat staff, maybe about your staff loyalty, maybe about your client loyalty, maybe about your client experience, maybe about the salon, maybe about the ethos in the salon. We have really almost about 40 questions that we give to our clients to really ask them some poking questions to go like, did you do enough? Can you see the holes in your business? And whatever you did last year, for you guys that did a lot of the questions, you probably had a good increase. If you guys that didn't do an awful lot, you probably could do a bit more next year. So let's implement them. At stage three, we look at your business and we do a SWOT and find out where we are, strengths. What are you good at? Let's do more of it. Where are your weaknesses? Where are your holes in your business? Let's try and plug them. What new opportunities can you see that's moving around in the industry? And of course, what threats are happening to your business? Well, we know one threat at the moment here in the UK, the NI is going up in April. So that's going to hurt you unless you plan for that. And then stage four is quite simple, is that your big number, and we're going to talk about this in a second, you're going to try and break that growth into your team. That's what we need to do. So let's talk about and dive in just at stage four. So let's say you've worked it all out and you know your growth. Let's just take some arguments. We're going from 300,000 to 400,000. Yep, we're going to go for a big growth this year. So if you're sitting around that 300,000 mark and you want to aim for the big 400,000, listen up. So we're going to increase business by 100,000. Now, the biggest question you've got to ask yourself is how are you going to go to your team and say to your team, hey guys, I want an extra 100,000 this year. And they're going to ask you one big question back. Why? Why do you need that 100,000, Richard? Is it to get yourself a new Porsche? Is it to buy yourself a new big house? Of course it's not. So we explain to the team that, there's a nice pot of money and our job is to fill it. And at the moment, depending on your circumstances, maybe you've been struggling all year and you want to tell them that this increase will stop all that struggling. And if we hit the 100,000, then we're going to go A, maybe have a salon refit. B, maybe we're going to give big Christmas bonuses. Maybe we're going to give bigger weekly wage to the team members like yourself. Maybe we're going to pay yourself a bit more money. Maybe we're going to take on more staff or receptionists. There'll be reasons what you're going to do with the money in the pot, and they need to buy into that. So stage one is quite simple. Once you take it to your team, they need to understand the reason you need to grow. Maybe you're number one in your area and you want to maintain number one. Maybe you're number two and you want to be number one. Maybe you want to pay your staff 20 pounds an hour or $50 an hour. I don't know. I mean, this is a question you need to figure out yourself. Now, that big number, the 100,000, like we said earlier on, can't be done on your own. It's not for you to do. So, if you've got a few staff members through here, the question is, who's going to take up the slack? Well, let's take this person, for example, who's you. You might be fully booked already, so you're going to have no growth. So, for us to hit that 400,000 mark, you can't take any more. So last year, for example, what did you do? Let's say you did 60K, you're still stuck on 60K. Well, this person here might have took 40,000 last year, and you're thinking they could do an extra 10K in there. So we're going to give them 10K extra. So they're now going to do 50,000. You get the gist. And you work it all the way along your team, and you may have someone who's here who hasn't been employed yet. You might employ someone new to take up the slack. So once they know that figure, that's their big number, then what you need to do is break that down compared to last year, and you'll work out things like, how many clients they need to do in a week and show them it's possible. You're going to then maybe show them how much the average bill was last year and how much you're looking for this year. And then you're going to help them by saying, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to do some marketing. You're going to do some reselling, cross-selling, etc. So maybe that's the sort of thing that you're going to work on with them. And this is the action points, because nothing gets done without any actions that goes through here. So that's what our goal is for you, to make sure that you can help your team members. And maybe there's going to be a reward that you might want to talk about at the end of that. Maybe they'll get bonuses, or, some of our team members have pay for their team to fly to Ibiza. We pay for our team to fly around the world. So maybe the reward will be really huge, or maybe it will just be, we need to save the salon. I don't know what that is. So really, when you work on your planning, you've got to start with that big reason why you want that increase and share that with the team members. Then you've got to break that big number down into small numbers. Then you've got to show them how it's actually achievable. And then throughout the year, you're going to have to do that. So let's say we're here and 12 months is here where we want that 30% growth. Our goal is quite simple. We'll need to have maybe some checkpoints. Maybe you'll do it at the end of the 3 months, quarter one, or maybe you'll do it at quarter two, and then at quarter three, and then at the end of the year. And maybe you'll have little team meetings in between that will help with the team training on the client journey, client experience, the rebooks, the retail, etc. And then we have 5 dials. So we have the 5 KPIs that we think are the most important. We call them the 5 dials. And maybe every single 3 months, you're going to check in with your team and see if they are on target for that. I want to just pull this in for a second. So we started this quite a while ago, and we were talking about why it's important to plan. Can you see now over the last few minutes that if you didn't do this, if you didn't know your important number and your desire to get it, if you didn't share this number with your team and give them a reason to want to hit that target, and then if you break that down into what do you need to do, what do they need to do, how are we going to hold them accountable, who's going to hold you accountable, and then you set yourself this plan of action for the year where you know where your salon's taking should be in 3 months from now. So the end of March, you should know exactly how much money you should take. You should know exactly how much you're going to spend on the wages. You'll know exactly how much your stock spend's going to be. You'll know what your bills are, and you'll know how much profit's in the bank. And that's planning. Goal setting is easy. We can all sit there and set a goal. The hardest bit is actually sitting there and building out a plan. So if you're seeing this video and you are totally lost and you go, I don't do any of this. This is all too much for me. It probably is. And that's why most people don't do it. They'll sit there and go, oh, we want to do better than next year. Wishy-washy, you won't. You could say, I want to do 1 million this year. Wishy-washy, you won't. You can name a figure. It's not going to happen unless you know exactly what numbers need to come through the door and what actionable steps that you need to do. Now, if you look at last year and look at the actionable steps that you did do, you'll know what worked. You might go, well, we did a 5% increase last year, and guess what? I did 5 things in marketing and I did 5 things in client loyalty and I did 5 things in staff loyalty. Great. So let's do them 5 again and hopefully we'll get another 5% increase. But once we increase them by another 2 or 3 things that need to get done, your business is going to grow more than 5%. It's them actionable steps that most people get stuck on. And I guess that's where a coach comes into its own. Because if you don't have a coach that says to you, like, what are you going to do? What steps are you going to put in place? And who's going to hold you accountable to get them done? Is probably why most people fail. And it's probably why most people that do have a coach do end up with bigger growth than salons that don't. We are looking in 2025 for our clients to hit one of the best years they've ever had. That's my promise to them. I'm looking for the same with myself. So I've planned out my year for growth, for profit, for a nice big bonus at the end of the year. If you want that, start planning. You can go and read some books on it. Maybe we'll go and buy some seminars and stuff, or maybe we should have a chat. There'll be a link below. You know how to reach me out if you need to. But I've really enjoyed talking through this. I'm going to jump off now because I'm going to actually get on with my clients who are literally right in the middle of doing this planning session. So literally in a week's time, they're going to know exactly what they need to do, what they're not doing, and how much growth they're going to go for this coming year. Do you want to be one of them? Let's chat. Bye for now.